Hi, I'm Indy. Welcome to another Great War special episode of Out of the Trenches, where I sit here in the chair of wisdom and answer your questions about the First World War. All right, Jonathan Williams writes, was there any trench warfare along the Franco-German border? Also, were the trenches really continuous? There were trenches everywhere. The Eastern Front, Italian Front, Gallipoli, and on the Franco-German border. But while I'm pretty sure you couldn't actually walk all the way from the Swiss border to the North Sea through continuous trenches, there were trenches all the way to the Swiss border and even trenches on the beach. But there are obviously natural obstacles to digging a trench. Marshes, lakes, swamps that would prevent them from being totally continuous. Actually, here is a picture of the Swiss border. And here are trenches on the beach. Nathan Richards writes, was there ever any serious consideration given by either side to a peace treaty that simply tried to put things back to how they were before the war started? Well, while there were leaders that considered at times trying to make peace with one or more enemies, as far as I'm aware, nobody tried to make a general peace that would put things back to pre-war mode. Actually, this fall, in October 1915, Konrad von Hotzendorf wrote a note to Emperor Franz Joseph saying that once Serbia was overrun, it might be a good time to make peace with Russia. But of course, if that had ever actually been proposed, it wouldn't have put things back the way they were before, because Austria-Hungary would have wanted to keep Serbia. At World War I series, when can we expect a special on the desk used in this series? Right now. This desk was originally the property of the Emperor Justinian, and indeed, much of his legislation actually happened right here. After his death, it was stolen during some riots in Constantinople, and for several hundred years, its whereabouts were unknown. But it had made its way somehow to Merv, which, even though you've never heard of it, was the largest city in the world in the 1200s. True story. It was in what is now Turkmenistan, and the Mongols killed it. I mean, they killed over 1 million people at Merv. Men, women, and children. They killed the entire city, the largest city in the world. And you better go look that up, because stuff like that should not be forgotten. But the desk was taken by Tolui, one of Genghis Khan's sons. And about 80 years later, Marco Polo discovered it, traded for it, and returned to Europe with it because, let's face it, Justinian's desk. It's a pretty cool thing to have. It remained in Venice for several hundred years in a nobleman's family until it was brought to America in the 1850s. Now, by the 1880s, it had been bought by Chris von der Ahe, the colorful German owner of the St. Louis Browns of the old American Association Baseball League, who won 4 straight pennants in the 1880s. Von der Ahe had it set up in his Golden Lion Saloon, which was in the right field pavilion of the St. Louis ballpark, and he conducted his business there, much like Justinian had 1,500 years earlier, until the late 1890s, when his finances collapsed and he was forced to sell his assets. And the desk was bought by a German friend of his named David Voss and brought to this nameless location where we now use it to talk about the First World War. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, the history of our desk. And ladies and gentlemen, David Voss. Woo! Come on, David, come say hi. Come say hi. Nice desk. All right. Wow, the history of the desk. That was pretty good, actually, I think. I wonder what it would be like if I did it again. Okay, Thomas Pheasant writes, hey guys, I'm a huge fan of your show and the work you are doing. Thank you. I will be trying to implement this into my history teaching at some point for sure. My question is with regards to the navies of World War I, specifically the navies of the other great powers other than the British Empire. Did the Austro-Hungarians and Italians duke it out in the Mediterranean? Did Germany and Russia tussle in the Baltic? I know there will be more Anglo-German seaborne fighting later, no spoilers, but I've never heard much of the other nations' naval actions. Okay. There were some actions taken by the Russian Navy against the German Navy around the Gulf of Riga, but the Russian Navy was never going to be strong enough to really take on that of the Germans in the Baltic. As to the Mediterranean and Adriatic, and without giving away too many spoilers, when the war began, and pretty much up until Italy joined the war, the Austro-Hungarian Navy spent its time at its major naval base at Pola. There were small skirmishes, but when Italy joined the war, just the fact of the Empire's navy's existence tied up the Italian and French navies in the Mediterranean. The Empire bombarded the eastern Italian coast from Venice all the way down to Barletta, but the navies didn't really, well, duke it out, as you said. And even in 1917, the Imperial Navy was pretty much undamaged. But one thing that is really important about the Mediterranean, since there were 3 Allied navies there was often chaos and lack of coordination because they had divided the Mediterranean Sea into 11 zones, right? The British were responsible for 4, the French for 4, and the Italians for 3. But you know, they had different command structures and they had different languages, and it caused serious problems. Like, the Italian troop transport Minus was torpedoed, and 800 and something men drowned in a British zone in 1917 because a British escort had not understood a message, not speaking Italian, and did not relieve an Italian destroyer that had turned around at the border of the zone. So we did a special, actually, that briefly covers the navies during the war, and you can check out that special right here. Don't forget to subscribe and like us on Facebook, and all your dreams will come true. See you next time.